Hello and welcome to my podcast. Today I will be answering question 3 of the critical creative reflection about how my production skills have developed throughout the project. I will split this podcast into 3 parts, which is the skills I have learned and improved, my group working skills, my knowledge of media studies, and how I applied it in our film. So I'll start with the skills and things I have learned and improved. Filming was one of the things I have learned and improved through the project. This was because I was assigned as the cameraman of the group. At the start of the project, I wasn't really proficient with using the camera for video. Since I was using the camera only for photography in my own time, using a camera for recording video was quite a challenge for me. This is because I struggled with getting the right focus or exposure and keeping the camera still. During my preliminary tasks, my workflow was extremely slow, as setting up the camera for each shot was a hassle. Even though the shots turned out quite good because of the lighting, I still struggled with making each shot right. As a result, during the blog making period, I watched many tutorials on YouTube and practiced taking videos in different light conditions with my camera at home. This made me more comfortable with the camera and improved my workflow. In our test shots, even though my workflow was more efficient, I still struggled to make each shot look good and professional. So at home, I watched even more tutorials on shot composition and also planned most of the main shots for the real filming day. As a result, on our shooting day for the real opening scene, I was able to set my cameras into each shot faster. Moreover, I was able to implement composition into each shot, making it authentic and more professional. Another thing I struggled with in the past was using a gimbal. During the preliminary task, our group was given a gimbal to use as an option to stabilize the camera. But as I had never used one before and never knew how helpful it would be to me, I didn't use it. It would be until our test shots that I decided to try and use the gimbal. I used the gimbal for several walking scenes and realized how helpful it is to stabilize my shots. However, I still wasn't fully comfortable with it and still didn't know how to set it up. As a result, in our test shots, it led to the gimbal suddenly turning left and right. After that, I went home and watched a tutorial on how to set the gimbal up. I realized that without setting up, the gimbal would not be stable and sit in the same place. Using the gimbal was very helpful to me as I used it in many shots in the movie, such as the overhead tilting shot. The last problem I encountered during the start of our production process was the sound. At the start of our project, during the preliminary task, our group struggled a lot with sound. This was because we used the audio directly from our camera. As a result, there was a lot of background noise in the dialogue and we couldn't get a clear sound. The audio was very scruff and we can't hear what the actors were talking about clearly. So, our group did some research on a budget way to get clear audio. Many sources suggest using an iPhone, so that was what we tried to use when it came to the audience focus group interview. This turned out quite good and there was less background noise. However, the audio still sounds low quality and wasn't really crisp and clear. Using the iPhone as our recording device for sound was our plan for our real opening scene. This was when I decided to bring a microphone, boom, and an audio interface to set up and try as an experiment on day 1 of the shooting day. Even though the microphone was for vocals and instruments, I thought it could be a better substitute than an iPhone, which turns out it was a great idea. Even if it took quite long to set up the microphone for each scene, I thought it was totally worth it, as the audio in our film was very crisp and clear. Editing was another thing I have improved throughout the project. At the start of the project, I had some experience with editing. However, during the preliminary task, I wasn't the person who edited the video, as I was delegated as the cameraman. However, in the real opening scene, my group wanted to color grade the film. Due to the main editor, Julia, having too much workload, I had to step in and help. At first, I did everything randomly, moving different knobs and graphs, hoping it to turn out good. However, that wasn't the case, so I spent time watching countless tutorials to finally understand color grading. In the end, the final product actually turned out very nice, as color grading helps set the mood and tone of the movie. A different color can have a different meaning. For example, in our movie, our grade was very warm and contrasted. This suggests a school setting which is supposed to be safe and free from danger. However, this is not the case as the students discovers a ghost in one of the classrooms. Next, I would talk about how my group working skills have improved throughout the project. Communication and collaboration is an extremely important skill in group work. This is because it ensures everyone knows what to do and what roles they are assigned to do in a specific task. Moreover, it is important in sharing ideas and fast decision making. In the first task, as we are not really familiar with working with each other as a group, communication was quite slow and limited. As a result, we weren't able to complete tasks as efficient and fast. We weren't also sharing ideas as much, which resulted in us kinda working off our own. As our project progresses, we started getting used to working with each other more and more and getting closer to each other. In each task, we would split ourselves and work on different sections of the task, delegating each other on different roles. For example, for the storyboard, I was in charge of writing the details of each shot, Peter was in charge of drawing the storyboard, and Julia was in charge of composing each shot. As a result, each task went by very fast and efficient. As a group, we have a combined Google Docs where we write each individual parts of the task and then we combine them ourselves. This and a group chat was a great collaboration and communication space to also write ideas for. Towards the end of the project, we helped each other and worked collaboratively for every single task. Moreover, towards the end of the project, communication and collaboration was extremely important. This was because we had to delegate each task correctly and efficiently for the real shooting. For example, I was in charge with all of the camera work, whereas Julia and Peter did the set design and helped me carry the equipment during shots that required a microphone. Peter was also directing and did composition, whereas Julia also made the costumes. By delegating each task, we were able to collaborate and work very efficient, getting each shot done very fast. Another group working skills we have developed was defining problems and actively feedbacking. Defining problems and solving them is an extremely important skill for group work, as it is a way to further improve our work. By doing this, we can gather group members' ideas and opinions on how the project could be improved or fixed. At the start of the project, we didn't feedback on each other's work as much because due to still not being close to each other, we are scared of giving opinions and feedbacking as it could potentially hurt each other's feeling, so that was very limited. However, as the project developed, feedbacking and defining problems was necessary. For example, in the test shots and original storyboard, we tried to shoot our final scene, which is a POV of the main character looking up and seeing the ghost in the corner. However, after some feedback, our group decided to change and scrap that shot. This is because having the camera slowly reveal the ghost doesn't really make it scary. As a result, we changed to a quicker and faster paced sudden jump scare, which was a lot better. Feedbacking also led to a more creative shot. In our opening scene, firstly, we wanted to bring kids and make them act for the CCTV shot. After that, we would switch between a black screen back and forth with sounds of children to show that they're burning. However, after telling our classmates and our teacher about the idea, they said it would be too confusing for the audience and it would not be the best way to illustrate and convey the audience that the children are burning. Looking back to it, I'm even more confused myself. So my team had a meeting like 2 days prior to the shooting day that we are going to change that scene. After good communication and decision making, we decided that we will instead set the camera in a stationary spot, then make Elsie, also known as the ghost, stand around our main character in different positions. As a result, we can use editing to make a glitch effect and make the ghost change positions randomly, which happens to turn out very effective. Another group working skill I have improved on is the ability to organize my time and workload. At the start of the project, there was not many tasks and the task itself wasn't really detailed. However, towards the end of the project, the workload started to increase massively. For example, as I'm talking right now, I have to do my reflections, finish my final vlogs, finish color grading the movie, whilst also revising for my upcoming mocks exam. Learning to organize my time has been very useful to me as I can work on all of the things I have to do efficiently without having to do everything last minute. The final thing I will be talking about is how my knowledge of media itself have improved and how I have implemented it in my own group's movie. I was new to the subject, so at the start I knew nothing about the techniques and media studies in general. In the preliminary tasks, I have only learned a few techniques such as the different types of shots like the long shot, mid shot or close up, and some rules like the 180-degree rule. As the project progresses, I learned more complex techniques such as an L cut or a J cut. Analyzing opening scenes also helped me to know the meaning behind every shot and mise-en-scène, for example color and mood. Moreover, I was able to know how the themes of each movie was presented to the audience and the hidden meaning behind it. As a result, I was able to implement these techniques and things I have learned in my own group's project, such as using an L and J cut to improve the flow of edit, composing shots such as a high angle to show the character's vulnerability, playing around with color by grading the scenes, like in the CCTV shot where we graded the color to be more blue, as blue is often associated with death. And finally, changing the lighting throughout the opening scene to increase the tense in the atmosphere and eeriness of the scenes. Learning different techniques and knowing the meaning has helped to make the final film more meaningful and effective. In conclusion, during this project I have learned many techniques and skills which will be very useful in starting next year's project. Overall, improving and developing these skills have made the project more efficient and fun.